All right. Well, I want to welcome you to the 21st edition of the Heart of the Coach. And on these calls, we will make sure we get a chance to listen to the heart of a coach, his love for the Lord, and how that incorporates with his call to coach. My name is Brian Mackenzie, serve as a director of football with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes in the Midwest region and beyond. And we want to welcome you to the call, and especially want to welcome our guest to the call. Our guest today is Ken Leonard. My great friend Ken for many, many years. He's the head coach at Sacred Heart Griffin High School in Springfield, Illinois. He's the winningest coach in the state of Illinois with 387 wins and also 5 state championships and 4 runners-up. And he's heading into his 43rd year of coaching this fall. Ken, welcome to the call.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's great to see everybody and a lot of these faces and these names I know. So I'm anxious to be here and talk to y'all.
All right. Well, Ken, what first got you into coaching?
You know what? From a very younger age, I was always, just my dad ran grain elevators, and I think he thought that that's what I should do. And I had 6 siblings, and he wanted one of us to take over, and that was not me. And I was always playing. I was always athletic and always wanted to be I was the catcher, I was the point guard, I was the quarterback. So, I guess that was, and then when I tell you what, I finally went to college, got a scholarship out of junior college, and was at the smallest high school. And I had a full ride to Indiana State. And then I changed and went to a NEI school up in South Dakota, believe it or not, Madison, South Dakota, Dakota State. And, had got all the scholarship money, brought 6 of my buddies from junior college and my wife to be at that time, and didn't work very hard. And I got beat out for the first time in my life in the middle of that year. And we had a good year. And then I knew then, the weird thing, I had my failure for the first time in my athletic career. I knew that, you know what, I was a great teammate. I took it, and I knew that, hey, I wanted to coach at that point. Mm. And then I went to Alaska, and I knew what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. I spent 2 years in the Alaska pipeline, working 7/12s, made more money than I ever made. But I said, you know what? Then all of a sudden I was serious about school after that. I knew,
Yeah. That's great, Ken. Great. Well, Ken, you've been involved in a lot of great football games in your 43 years of coaching. And so what's one of the greatest games you've been involved in, and why was it so great?
You know what? And there's some ex-players on here, and that was a hard one. Yeah, I've heard some other guys talk. There's so many. I mean, I've been in 43, 44 years, a lot of great games. I guess you'd have to say my 2005 state championship, when we won our first state championship. It took a long time to get. I started in head coaching in 1980. So that was, there's others though, but 2005, Rock Island Allman game, state championship, when we finally did it, when we finally got her done.
Yeah. A lot of hard work. Sounds a lot like Coach Hayward, all the years he put in and finally got one done in 03. And that first one means a lot when you work so hard. And all those players that may have been a part the 25 years before that fed into that win, I'm sure. Well, Ken, why do you coach? What's your purpose in coaching?
This has changed. I'd say definitely right now it's a platform to glorify Jesus. I mean, that's what it is now. It's not always been that. And to build godly men for this world, man, because what we're going through right now, my goodness, we got to be there for these young men and to help them. And just the honest, you just want the straight, honest answer. I'm a competitor. I've always been a competitor. It's just that drive in me to compete. And just I love the game of football, the strategy of it, and but more than that, now I've got life straight and the platform to glorify Jesus and be bold, not be afraid to do that. And so, and my purpose, and you're going to ask me what my purpose is, because I've watched these before, and that's to be Christ-like. And we've made that, in our stadium. It says, and when we built our new stadium, I had nothing. We had nothing here for 28 years, and then we got a new stadium, and I made sure that went up first. Is our goal is to be champions. We're not going to back down from that, but our purpose is to be Christ-like, and we don't always do that, but that's what we strive to be. That's my purpose.
Yeah, I love it, love it. Ken, how do you want your relationship with Jesus to practically impact your players at SHG?
Well, first and foremost, I want them all to know Jesus as their Lord and Savior, and for them to be saved, and for us to all to be in heaven. And I pull no punches about that. We start out every practice with prayer. We end every practice with prayer. And they know where I stand. My parents know where I stand. If I'm going to offend somebody, it says in Scripture a number of places, and if I'm going to offend somebody, it's going to be man. It ain't going to be God. And that's what that never used to be me, but that's how it is now. Because what can man do to us? But they need to know that, hey, this is the way. It's the only way. Because they're hearing everything else, and that's the bottom line. For them to be saved, and I want them to see Jesus in me, and I want them to see that, hey, I'm not bashful of who I am and what I stand for, and what I want to stand for.
Yeah, well, great. Well, Ken, you've been being in coaching for 43 years. You've been around a lot of great coaches. So just name a couple of maybe the most influential coaches in your life and why they were so influential.
Well, I think all of us can go back, and that's why we're so important. There's college coaches on here too, and mine goes back to my high school coach, Ed Thomas. Because you're impressionable. And again, in high school, I was at a small school, and I grew up there in Chinook, Illinois, and again, Ed was my the coach, and I had I was in basketball and baseball and track and all that, but he was the most influential on me. We moved my senior year, so I stayed back at home. I stayed with friends. I lived with friends from my junior year halfway through, all through my senior year. So he was really my dad away from home, and so he was very. And then I had a couple. John Elizik was one of my assistants, and he was just as far as coaching, I learned a lot from John, and we butted heads a number of times, but he was very influential in my how organizational, and how well he did the offensive line, and how he just loved the game of football and his players.
Yeah. Well, Ken, what do you do personally to foster your growth in your relationship with Jesus?
I try to get into the Bible every day. I'm into 2 or 3 different Bible studies, and you lead me and my wife in one, and there are a couple, and Kevin Elliott, FCA. We have FCA every Sunday. My wife and myself do devotions. I do a devotion, read a devotion to her every morning, and just, and then you've got me memorizing a lot more scripture, which I'm failing at most of the time. Got to have cheat sheets, but, those are the things, and just daily, just going through life, just thanking Jesus and praising him, and just I'm just a simple guy, and just little bitty prayers, and just asking God for wisdom and knowledge all the time, and just thanking him for being in my life. It's changed my life, and it's eternally, and what FCA has done, and FCA has been a big part.
Mm, yeah. Well, Kim, what would you say are some of the foundational principles that have helped you build such a championship culture there at SHG?
Well, our scripture is Philippians 2:2-5. And I think that was a great foundation. And when I finally, I think and we didn't have all these right, but faith, family, and football. Now we're putting faith first. There's no question. We're putting Jesus first. And that's what I talk to the kids about, what's going on in today's world right now. That's where we got to turn to. All the talk and stuff. We got to turn to Jesus and the love, and then family, and then build it on a family structure. I really get my parents involved, and but it's all back to Jesus. It's all, again, and Philippians is all about, that's probably the best verse. We went 3-3 last year. It was the worst start we've had in 20 years. And I brought my parents in, and that's the meeting I had. And I did this, Philippians 2:2-5. I said, here it is. Then make me truly happy. I agree wholeheartedly with each other, because the parents, man, and everybody was biting. And then loving one another and working together with one mind and one purpose. How much better is that? Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble. Thinking of others better than yourselves. I've never seen anybody have a better coaching purpose than that, and a team purpose. Don't look out for your own interest, but take the interest in others. And the last thing is, you must have the same attitude of Christ Jesus. And he was the toughest dude ever lived. So right there, and I put it on the parents. The kids were, I think, they were ready, but the parents needed to. And I said, hey. And I pointed at the door. I said, hey, this is all about, if you can either take it or leave it. And here's what's going to happen. This isn't my first rodeo. We're going to bounce back, and here we go. And so everybody bought in, and things got a little better. Yeah. We didn't have to play Chatham anymore, or Rochester. Well, we had to play Rochester. But.
Yeah, that probably helped. That's good. Oh, well, hey, you're going into your 43rd year of coaching. I mentioned that a few times. And what's something you wish you would have known as a young coach that you know now that you'd like to pass on maybe to some young coaches that are on this call?
Oh, let go and let God. It was all about me back then. It was, and probably the best thing I ever did. I started at a school. My first job was at Gridley High School. And I don't know how many of you folks probably don't even know where Gridley's at in Illinois, but they don't even have a school anymore. Some of you might know. We had 88 kids in my school at the last year I was there. I had 18 players, total players. So when I first got there, we had a few more students and a few more, players. And I was the coach. I was the only coach. I was the trainer. I was the doctor. I got one guy part-time to be my assistant. So, and I was a wild man. And, but hey, you know what? I made them believe that we had and now I think I got 20 coaches. I don't even know how many coaches I got now. So it's, but I tell you what, it was a great learning experience. But I was so focused on football, talking about faith, family, football. Football was definitely number one. And my family was there. I had Derek, Derek's a coach at Rochester. Derek was little, just 2 or 3 at the time, and Bradley just born, and my wife Liz, and we made nothing, and she didn't work. She stayed home with the kids, but I was totally into football, and I was consumed by it. And I think I learned real quick and I think people that are successful know this. The people that I've come across in lines of work, people that are successful know what they don't know. And then they get people around them to know what that is and to learn about what you don't know. And when I could accept that, and I did that right away, then I got better. But I was just driven to win. And we won, but it wasn't fulfilling because, again, I hadn't had Jesus, and I didn't know what I was missing, and God struck me down when I was 38 and to come to know the Lord.
You know, Ken, one of the things you talk about a lot is the rule of three. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great thing that you've learned over the years, and you've implemented in the way that you not just coach football, but the way you interact with your team and your coaches. So what's the rule?
But tell them. You tell me, Brian.
I'm trying to remember myself, Ken. So the rule of three is you teach them, right? That's the first one, right? Yeah. You tell them.
Tell them. And you tell them, and guess what, guys?
Don't forget.
They'll forget.
Right.
You tell them, they'll forget.
Right. You show them.
Yeah.
Right. And they'll learn more?
They'll remember more. Yeah. You show them, you put them up, they'll remember a little bit more.
Right.
But the last one, what's the important?
Yeah. You basically let them lead. You empower
them.
You
involve them. You involve them and let them lead. Yeah. Like right now, if they can have captains, workouts, and then you teach them, and then they've got to be the coaches. They've got to be. And and guys, I learned this. Again, guess what? When I was one coach and I had one team and I had to do it all, that's what I did. I brought my seniors in. I taught them, okay, this is our daily drills. This is what we do. This is how we're going to run the offense, defense. Now you linebackers here, we broke down. And a number of them guys were coaches now. We broke down and they coached. And so, yeah, that's so important because I don't know about you all, but hey, somebody tells me something, I forget it. That's why I have such a hard time memorizing all them doggone scriptures, I look it up, I can, So that, it's the same way with kids, but if they see it, they know more. But when you involve them, man, they understand it. And it takes time. The rule of three is, it's pretty good.
Yeah, real good. I didn't do too good with that. Remembering that, did I, Ken?
Well, you did good though. Hey.
Yeah.
And I got to tell everybody on this call that Brian Mackenzie is the most godly man I know. And he is my spiritual leader. He did the funeral for my son, my wife, and he married me. And what else is there? But he truly lives out the life. And tell you what, I get to see Jesus every day when I see Brian Mackenzie. And that's coming from my heart. And didn't mean to get emotional, guys, but that's doggone truth. And Brian Mackenzie, and whatever you can do to be a part of what Brian's doing, man, I tell you what, it's all of God, and it's all good. Now, Brian, I don't want you crying, so you got to talk.
No, let's go. I appreciate that, Ken. Appreciate that, brother. Well, talking about challenges, what's maybe one of the biggest challenges you faced as a coach, and how did your relationship with Christ help you through that?
The challenges we all have right now is just, everybody talks about how the kids are different, and they are. But the kids are no different. Parents are, kids are the same, but doggone parents are tough. And I think just doing it, and I've been around long enough, I'm established, and it's my way, and it's how it's going to be. And I, right off the bat, I said, hey, this isn't a democracy, it's a dictatorship, and I'm a dictator, and this is how it's going to be. But I give them a lot of responsibilities. The parents are very involved in everything we do. We do so much as a family. And but it all comes back that's the toughest thing, and making the hard decisions. You know, you got to make hard decisions. You got to make hard, you know, and you got to get rid of kids. Sometimes it's addition by subtraction. You try to save them, but you can't save everybody. And you got to just do what's right. But you got to, you know, you got to be there for kids and see where their heart's at. And that's a challenge right now. And then also when we went to the spread offense back in the late 90s, when we got our butt beat, 98 was had a losing season that year. And then I just changed, you know, I just said, I'm going to do it. Hey, I'm going to do it my way. I used to be a little bit more innovative and creative and stuff. And I was listening to some of my coaches and they were basic and they wanted, you know, they were old, you know, and I just wasn't that. You got to coach the way who you are sometimes too. And that's very important. And then the last thing, as far as I think the thing we got to do is, I call it the man offense, guys, and it goes for defense too. And there's 7 points to it, but I'm just going to go over 1 point. Get the man the ball. And that bottom line, it's all of us thinking that we can figure this all out and get something going. Hey, guess what? And we can win the games as coaches sometimes, and we can, because we can coach them up and get them doing the right things. But your best players will win you the games. But sometimes you may even have to get rid of your best player if he's not right for the team. And that's hard. And you don't want to get rid of anybody, but making those hard decisions and then living by your beliefs.
Yeah, Ken, one of the good things I think you've done with building the culture there and family is, and this is one of the things that helps perpetuate that and emphasize this, but at your banquet at the end of the year, tell me what's different about your all's awards banquet than most people's awards banquet.
Well, one thing, we give no awards. There's no MVPs, there's no trophies, there's none of that stuff, none. We give letters out just like everybody else. And the only people, we put all the seniors up front, and the only names that are mentioned that night are the seniors. And we say a good thing, which is not always easy, about every kid. We bring them up one at a time, and then I have their segment coach, and then I speak, and we talk about every senior. I don't care if you're an all-state or all-American. We've had some great ones that were sophomores, juniors. Their name is never mentioned, never. And until you become a senior, and I haven't always done it that way, but I've always done it where no awards, because, you know, coaches say about these team, well, together, everybody, well, guess what? Then we give out MVP of this and most valuable and outstanding running back and all these things. It only hurts feelings and it leaves a bad taste in them. We win a state championship and they get mad because somebody thought they were whatever and they didn't get it. That way, everybody, hey, we're all in it together. And that's the unique point. Now, parents get carried away sometimes with the senior gifts, but they're the honorees. They've made it there. That's what I want my freshmen, sophomores to look at. We just bring the group up, talk about the freshmen, talk about the sophomores, talk about as a team. No individual names, just team. And then each senior, no matter what, and like I tell them, the people I talk the most about is not the All-American, not the Gatorade Player of the Year I had a couple years ago, but the kid that never got to play, that had 4 years, that was a great teammate, that was just, you know, didn't have the most ability, but he was always there for everybody. He's the guy that was the MVP for us. I mean, he was the guy that I thought, hey, and I tell him, I said, you know what? He's going to make it. You know, he's got the best shot at making it in life because he's went through struggles already. The guy that was the Gatorade Player of the Year, he's pretty well set because he had it easy, and now all of a sudden it's not going to always be easy out there in life. And I told him that. I said, so But the Gatorade Player of the Year was a pretty good kid. Now he's going to make it.
Well, yeah. Guys, we got a few minutes here maybe to open it up for a couple of questions. Would any of you all like to ask Coach Leonard a question?
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
How you doing, Terry?
Yeah, great. Just trying to, how do you deal with that, getting your coaches on the same page, your staff, with the same beliefs and the same focus?
Well, you know, I think you gotta, demand that this is how it's going to be, and encourage them, and you gotta, and then as the head coach, you gotta be, you are the final say. That's it. I mean, we try to, and if they sometimes, again, coaching's the same thing. Sometimes they buy in and sometimes they don't. And then I tell you the other thing is I delegate. If you're going to be a coach, you're going to coach. And I demand that you and coach it the right way. And I want to see their plans. I want to see what they're doing, what drills they're doing. How does those drills relate to our offense, our defense, and so on? And get them involved and keep them involved. Because I think delegating really helps that, Terry. And that's where you've come in by saying, okay, this is what we really need you to be here. And just be honest with them. You know what? Coaches were honest with me growing up, and that's what, man, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've tried to listen.
Real quick, Coach, when
Yeah.
you started, do you have anybody from your original staff left on your staff currently?
Yeah, I got some. I'm pretty unique, and I know a couple guys around here, my ex-players, and I had quite a few of my players that are on my staff, and they're the ones that, I've got a bunch of them. My staff has stayed together, and you know what? Here's my staff. My staff is ex-players and fired coaches from around the area that I knew were good coaches, head coaches. And I brought them over and said, hey, situation, and this is how we do it. And they're shocked that, because they see us and they say, God, it's not what I thought it was. And I said, no, people think what they think. And then when they get over there, they're really, and I've got them. I think I had them from every public school in town and from around the area. And they're good coaches and they know what they're doing, and I put them in responsibility. And then my coaches, again, my players, because of the rule of the three, I know my players know how to coach.
Good. Got time for one more question.
Hey, Coach, can you name a coach that you always like to compete against and why?
Von Edgar. No, I guess, I think, when I like going against Chatham Glenwood. I mean, they do it the right way. I really mean that. And David Hay and Coach, that's quite a rivalry for us. But also, I guess I hate going against him. But my son, it's a Rochester, and he's won 8 out of the last 10 state championships, and so I don't like it, but I do like it because I'm so proud. And again, about half of his staff is ex-players of mine. So I told the kids, and we lost, and we'd had a 51 or 2 game conference win streak at the time, and they came in and they were a small school, and they're going to get their butts kicked. And I knew they were really good, and I've been out, because I was at their practices, and I knew, they basically did what we did, and they had a really good team, and they've had a lot of good teams, and they were very well prepared. And I told our kids, I said, guys, they're not going to be intimidated. We're looking in the eyes of us. I said, they are not going back down. So you better strap it up and go for us. Our first game, we went down to the last play of the game. And we threw the ball in the end zone. The kid knocked it away, and they won. And so I am one up on him right now, though. That's a good thing.
You win this year and retire, you stay 2 up on him, right?
That's right. No, he's but it's not a fun game. You know, and during the year it's okay because they call it the Leonard Bowl, and it's, you know, and a lot of people come to it. It's a big game, but you know, I tell you, we had to play them in the playoffs, and that was not good. They're usually in the class below us, and that was not fun at all because one of us was going to lose, and no joy. There was no joy in winning that, losing. Now it was a tremendous game. It was 35-35 and a half. Not much defense for you guys that are on defensive side of the ball. We had 555 yards of offense, and he had 556. So wasn't a lot of offense being played, or defense. But God, it was 35. It was an unbelievable game, and they had a great team, and they went on and just killed everybody. The last 2 games of the year, that was quarterfinals, and I don't know how many Chicago guys are on this call, but beating Chicago teams are good because they think us downstate boys are a bunch of, you know, whatever. Maybe it's like that in other states too, you know, a bunch of hillbillies down here or something. And we don't play any football, but you know, I got really good friends in the Chicago area, and they play great football, and it's always battles with them. So,
yeah.
But Derek went on one, so.
Yeah. Well, Ken, thanks so much for your time today. Another great, the heart of the coach. Thanks for sharing your heart, your love for Jesus, your love for coaching, and being encouragement to these coaches on the call. All you coaches, thanks for being part of the call today. This Friday continues our all-time week. We've had the all-time wins leader in Kentucky. Now we have the all-time wins leader in Illinois. And this Friday, we're going to have the all-time wins leader from Wheaton College, Mike Swider, who just retired. And actually next Monday, I'll go ahead and let you know, we're going to have Maurice Crum, who's the defensive coordinator at Western Kentucky University, on the heart of the coach. So thanks again for being on the call. All these are the ones previous to this, at least for almost all of them, are on YouTube, FCA Football YouTube page if you want to catch those. Thanks again for being on the call today, guys. God bless you. Give them heaven.
Hey, guys, thanks. Brian, great job. I love you.
Thanks. Love you too, Kenny. Thanks, brother.